couple seconds. Dark.
And we are back after barely any turnaround time at all from the last one. Welcome back to Mysterium. This is the Cyan Art Team Q&A panel. I'm Kha'tie. I don't think I introduced myself last time, but hi, I'm Kha'tie. And with me today, we have 5 people from Cyan on the art team. And rather than introduce you and tell everybody what you do, I'm going to let you introduce yourselves one at a time and tell everyone how long you've been at Cyan and what got you into Cyan and what you do at Cyan. And Eric, I think we should start with you since you're the most senior. I was going to say eldest, but
I wish you would have gone with oldest and most decrepit. That would
most
have been
seasoned.
Seasoned. I'll take seasoned.
Grizzled.
Over seasoned. I'm Eric. I've been at Cyan a really long time. I started in 2000 as a entry level art dork, and it was my first job in the gaming industry. And I do a bunch of stuff. I'm currently creative director and run the art side of things and help keep the company pointed in the right direction. So I'll pass it over to Derrick. Oh, are you going to jump in,
I was
Kha'tie?
going to say, and how many distinct times have you worked at Cyan?
A lot. I held the record.
Really?
I've honestly lost track. I want to say, I think it's somewhere in the 7 or 8 range, actually.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We're up above 5 for sure. So
awesome. Well, we're glad you're here for sure.
Thank you.
Like every time you return.
I'm glad to be here too. So
don't leave again.
Okay.
Hi, Derrick.
Hello. Good afternoon. My name is Derrick Robinson. I am the art director here at Cyan. I've been at Cyan off and on 3 stints, not the record, but 3 stints, but since 2008. So over the last 13 years, 3 stints at Cyan off and on. And I do many art things as well, many art things. So right now I oversee some of the visual direction and the art direction, but we all do many things here at Cyan. So,
right, Blake.
My name is Blake Bjerke. I'm a senior technical environment artist at Cyan. This is my 2nd stint since 2015. Working on all aspects of environment creation as well as art pipeline tools and whatever else, just kind of increase our efficiency as an art team overall.
And you were on abduction as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, did we play Unwritten together? Is that how I know you?
Yeah.
Me and you and Jeremiah? Okay.
That's right.
Because I'm like, you look so familiar, but we haven't crossed paths at Cyan, so all right. Autumn?
Hey, I'm Autumn Palfenier. I have been working at Cyan for just about 3 months now. So I'm very much a newcomer to this. But yeah, what brought me here is I am a character animator. And so I just love the kind of narrative-driven, story-driven games. And so I was really interested in coming to join Cyan and see what we could do with characters and bring those stories to life.
Awesome. Welcome to Cyan on behalf of the fans out here that are very excited that that Cyan is adding staff. That's a wonderful thing to see. Jeremiah, who a lot of people already know.
Hi, I'm Jeremiah Castro, currently an artist at Cyan. I started back in 2007 as a QA tester. Back then, that was the only thing Cyan was hiring for. That was shortly after college. Like other people, I've had several stints, but I've been pretty much back since 2011. I think it's just laid off shortly once in that time. But since 2011, it's mostly been just art that I do.
Cool. Thank you all for that. We are going to talk about a few things. I know it's been brought up in a couple of other panels already, but and I won't say more than 2020, and you'll all know what I'm talking about. But when the world changed last year, we heard Hannah and Eric this morning talking, or earlier today, talking about the fact that the studio was already making some changes and shifts to enable remote work. And so thankfully, we're prepared when the world kind of went the way it did last spring. And so what I want to talk about is, since that happened, how has that changed either how you've worked in the past or how you've been able to work differently with either Cyan or any other team? Just what's the quality of work like now, and how has that affected how the art team? I know we're going to talk about a lot about the pipeline today, but how did working remotely and being forced to everybody working remotely in that moment change the way the art was handled at Cyan? And I guess, well, we have a few of you who've been actually working on the pipeline. Autumn, do you want to start talking about how the pipeline is working?
Yeah. So the biggest thing has been kind of figuring out coordination with everybody. So when you're in a studio, it's really nice to be able to just bring a lot of people over to your desk and say, hey, come look at this thing. This is what I'm working on. And it allows you to get a lot of departments to collaborate at once. And that becomes a little more difficult. You have to be really, really direct with kind of, sending messages to everybody and getting everyone looped in, and maybe we start a meeting or something like that. So there's a little bit less of that kind of just freedom to haul everyone over and look at something. But I would say that, despite everything, the tools that we have, we use Slack and video meetings and things like that. It hasn't hindered us too much overall.
That's good to know. Yeah, that's good. And Derrick, as art director, do you also work with an art producer, or does one of the producers help as well, so that you're able to focus on the creative as instead of maybe the people wrangling and the overseeing the day-to-day tasks and stuff?
Yeah, well, we have a little bit of help. Some of that is actually done by no doubt y'all know Ryan Warzeka.
Yeah.
He is the spreadsheet wrangler, the task wrangler, and he really helps us kind of stay on course there. It does help us keep focused on the art, keep focused on what's important to us, what's important for us to do, because it's our specialty. So yeah, I can't recognize him enough for that role, for sure.
Yeah, that's good. So out of the five of you, how many were on Abduction? Blake, you were. Okay, so everybody but Autumn. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So when you were doing Abduction, I know I mentioned the pipeline. Was Abduction one of the way it was working then, was that one of the reasons you decided to focus on developing the tools and the processes by which? Yeah, go ahead, Eric.
Yeah. Abduction is actually a really good example case to talk about, because I mentioned briefly in the last panel this morning that Abduction was actually the studio's first serious foray into Unreal Engine anything. Like we had zero experience really leveraging the tool set and knowing how to get the most out of it. And so that was a little bit of a trial by fire. And I still, I even looking at it now, it's like there's things that if we knew then what we know now, it would have been a whole different story. But part of our pipeline and our tool set has evolved just from the experience of having done a very, very complex game the way we did it and learning lessons the hard way. I mean, I think that's kind of the best way to say it, is like the best way to learn anything is to crash and burn the hard way and go, oh my God, never again. And then you start to identify which things are really important and which things don't matter as much and are going to come out in the wash. Right. Mm-hmm. It's made us focus on fundamentals in a way that even now we have these conversations on the art team that emphasize how important the fundamentals of both visual design and lighting and composition and understanding the thing you're trying to build, understand the importance of the thing you're trying to build. Tools are useful too, but it's almost secondary to everything else, right? But you're absolutely right about like abduction taught us what things to focus on, and I think now our team is so well positioned with the experience of both abduction, but even more importantly, coming off the back of Myst, which was an even bigger lift in terms of the spread of platforms we're hitting. We're hitting everything to a mobile device all the way up to high-end PC, and understanding our tool set and having just like, we're still building the tool set, right? And it keeps getting better all the time. So in terms of tools, like I would pitch over to Blake and ask if he had any thoughts on our tool chain now versus our tool chain during abduction and how we've improved.
Yeah, I mean, with abduction, as you mentioned, it's a lot of trial and error, just crash and burn, learn exactly what works, what doesn't, the fundamentals and everything like that. And without the tools that we had, mainly just stuff that you created, Derrick, it helped us really just punch above our weight class, because we were just such a small team of artists and programmers just trying to develop something way bigger than we really had any right to ship. And so using that same kind of mindset going forward, we can, as we're building, spaces and everything, we can say, hey, this is a monotonous task, or this is slowing us down. So how can we approach this, building these areas and worlds in a more intelligent way that saves us time and still functions properly, and everything, like your spline tools or scattering tools or just material pipelines and everything. Just it all comes together, and it's just a whole mixed bag that just really allows us to just work smarter and get a whole lot more done.
And so you feel like for firmament now, some of those things, like you say crash a lot, but some of those things, those problems have been alleviated, and now you're able to focus on putting stuff together.
Yeah, I mean, it's all just things we've learned even during the past year, just what works, what doesn't, and just foresight that helps us, plan for these fires well in advance.
Yeah, right. The turn of phrase we always use is like spotting the landmines. I always talk about like looking out at the horizon and trying to identify the problems. And
before you're walking over
before you walk onto
right.
them, yeah. And the further out you can spot them, the better. But it doesn't change the fact that you're still walking into a minefield, and we're still going to step on a few mines. It happens every time. It's unavoidable. It's just, what do we do when we hit one, right? How do we course correct, and how do we operate under pressure? And I think the entire company has gotten really good at sort of dealing with things not going the way we anticipated, and then course correcting midstream. I think that would be the whole team's sort of secret superpower. Is just, you could call it working through adversity, or you could call it working under pressure. I don't know, but
having a medium on staff.
Yeah.
So we're getting this question a lot. We've gotten it from 3 different people, kind of worded 3 different ways, but they're asking me to ask each of you how you got into video game art, and how, what started you on this path into the industry. Jeremiah, would you like to start?
Sure. I've always been really interested in computer graphics, and I grew up in a small town in Montana, and people don't really know about that. So I was always trying to watch like behind the scenes of movies and stuff to figure out how they did stuff. And I was always just really curious. And I finally had a recruiter from a college here in Spokane come and talked about a multimedia program. And so I did learn like 3D art and that sort of stuff. So I came over to Spokane to go to ITT Tech and learn about that. And one of my teachers even was a former scientist, a Doug McBride, and he talked about Cyan a bit. And I didn't even necessarily, when I was learning that, intend to be a video game artist. I was just trying to learn all the computer art stuff I could. And I eventually stayed in for a game design program to continue my education and get a bachelor's degree. And then it's just kind of turned into me working at Cyan then, and then doing art at Cyan.
And Blake, what about you?
I just remember being about 8 years old or so. My parents brought home Myst, and I remember just playing that as a kid, not understanding anything that was going on, but being captivated by the scenery, the world, and mystery of it all, and it just kind of took root. And I guess in high school, I decided I wanted to pursue 3D art, and I made a small and real scene of Kha'tie Island, and that got Eric's attention on Twitter. So the rest is history. So.
There you go. Well, there's a panel tomorrow for Uru World Builders that Doug will be on, actually. I didn't know if you knew that. So tomorrow at 1:30 Eastern, Doug will be talking to us. So
I did read that. I'll probably have to check that out. It's been
yeah,
a long
you
time
should.
since I've seen him, so
He has a lot of really great memories. So because I mean, we haven't talked to him in so many years. It'll be great to hear the things he has to say about back in the day. So Derrick, how did you get into video game art?
It also started early on. I as a kid, I was always very interested in I guess today it would be called world building, right? So I looked at I was incredibly inspired by one of my favorite artists, James Gurney, and his Dinotopia books, right? And so I read that thing cover to cover. I drew the pictures. I learned and kind of try to understand how he created a world, created a civilization, created culture, created all these things, and it was always super fascinating to me. And so I was always noodling around with that kind of stuff, making things like that. And I too grew up in the area. And when I was 17, I was able to job shadow one of the artists here at Cyan as well. A lot of this stuff has directly to do with Cyan. So many of us were inspired by Myst.
Sorry, which artist?
Steve Hugendijk.
Okay. Yep.
Steve Hugendijk. So, but yeah, way back in 1999 or 2001 or something like that. Like right when I was, it's been so long. No,
so
but,
they would have been working on Uru then.
They were.
Yeah.
I came in for the day. I got to job shadow for the day. They showed me the little things behind the scenes, what would eventually become Uru. Some amazing things. It was like a dream come true, and that solidified kind of what I wanted to do. I said, you know what, this is where I want to be. This is where I need to be. They create worlds. They create cultures. They create amazing art. And so, like Blake, the rest is history. And here we are today, right? So.
Yep. And Autumn, what was your path into the industry?
So growing up, I was always making like little comic books and game design documents with my sister, and we would just build worlds together. I had something called Click and Play, which was a video game building kit, and I made a bunch of clones of different games that I love to play. Made like a Mario clone and like a top-down RPG. And I just had so much fun making the sprite art for that and doing little sprite animations. And we even made like a movie with that. And so I, in high school, started getting into like drawing and art. And I had always thought that my only path into games was programming. And I took a C++ class, and I was like, this is really, really hard. So I had always loved doing art, and finally realized, hey, there's people who animate these characters and bring them to life. And that was something that I was always captivated by growing up on like Disney animation and stuff. And so my path into the industry is I went to a school in Redmond, Washington called DigiPen, and it's mostly video game programming and animation for games. And then I got my start at a company here in Seattle called ArenaNet, and I worked on Guild Wars 2. And that was an amazing start. Yeah, that was super
Beautiful
fun.
game, by the way.
It is, yeah. They had an incredible team of concept artists and environment artists there, and it still is one of the biggest teams that I've ever worked on. But yeah, I kind of bounced around the industry from there, and then came out to Cyan a few months ago, and was just captivated by the worlds that they are building, and played Mist Quest and was like, this is really cool. You know,
Right.
it was giving me all the escape room vibes that I love from playing escape rooms. And
Yeah.
yeah, it was really exciting to come here and help them build these worlds.
I guess it is. It's escape world, right?
Right. Yeah. Escape Island.
Did your sister stay? You said you started building worlds with your sister. Is she doing something in the industry at all?
She is actually an English teacher now, and
Okay.
she specializes in creative writing. So she
Okay.
was always kind of writing the stories, and then I was doing like the artwork.
There you go. I'm glad she stayed in the creative field, though.
Yeah.
All right, old man, time to tell us your path to
Oh,
Cyan.
so many years ago.
I know, right?
See if I can remember.
It was
no, I mean,
63 years ago.
Yeah, 63 years ago. No, I mean, I've always been a gaming. I grew up in the 80s playing, you know, well, I was going to say all the way back to and I was trying to remember the earliest system. I mean, I've been playing games since my dad was a teacher and he brought home like an Apple IIe. So I've been playing games since the Apple IIe, including, Atari and NES and all that stuff going all the way back to the early 80s. And so it was always part of my life. It wasn't until I was just about to graduate high school when Myst came out, and that was huge, right? That changed everything. And in college, my focus was mostly on trying to get into the animation industry, ILM or Pixar, something like that. Toy Story came out when I was in college, and that sort of changed everything as well, changed the whole industry. But then I think it was the year that I was graduating college, a little game came out called Riven, which that was people had been eyeballing it, but when it actually came out, that was shocking and stunning, and it got this thought in my head, like, man, I should really try it and see if I could get a foot in the door there. It was a dream job situation. So I applied at Cyan, and then I promptly got rejected, and that was the end of that. And then 6 months later, I got a call out of nowhere from Ryan Miller, who was a project manager at the time, who wanted to follow up on an interview. And that was, I think they forgot that they rejected me. I still have the rejection letter hanging on the wall of my office at work.
Right on.
It will be there forever. And I don't know what else there is to say. That was my first real job out of college. I mean, I had piecemeal jobs right after college, but that was about 2 years after graduating, and I fell in love with the worlds and with the people and with the studio and with the legacy, and I still can't get it off my back today. So yeah, the rest is history. Yep.
Thank you all. We're getting lots of good comments, according to Kelly, in the chat about hearing your backgrounds. That's really important to people. It's nice for fans to get to know you, because then when they're playing in the worlds you're creating, they know the love and the care that's gone into it. Of course, I mean, everybody at Cyan makes fans feel that way, which is awesome. So following that, what advice would you give to artists that are either in school or just graduating, or maybe have graduated in the past and are still looking to get a break into the industry? What kinds of things would you recommend for people trying to get into the art and games field? And anyone can start.
It's a big question.
It's a huge question.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And there's no one way, right?
Yeah. I have one, and it's advice I wish I would have received better and been able to take it to heart more. But make sure you're working on like good portfolio items. When I graduated college, we had made a game that wasn't, by the time it came out, it wasn't very modern or anything. So a lot of us weren't comfortable like making a good portfolio with that. I wish that I could have been able to like continue and update that stuff and make a good portfolio from that, but I just really wasn't able to. So that's my bit of advice there, is make stuff that you really want to show off and would interest a company.
Yeah, sure. Things you're proud of, right? Yeah.
I can piggyback off of that a little bit. I'll say that and here's truth and honesty time. That it doesn't matter how much schooling you have. It doesn't matter how much academic credentials you have and things like that. It really does matter the kind of work that you can produce. The portfolio, when I as an art director, when I'm hiring folks and I'm looking at other things, I'll be honest with you, the first thing I look at is the portfolio. I skip the cover letter, I skip your things, and then I go back and I read those and I come to know you. But really and truly, it's definitely important to see the type of work you do. The type of work that you do allows pretty much anyone to know what's in your mind when you're going through the design process. Kind of, it's a little bit of a peek into your brain as you're doing your work. So for me, that's incredibly important for that part, to have a solid portfolio.
Yeah, that's excellent.
I want to second Derrick saying, like, your background is almost irrelevant. Your schooling is nearly irrelevant. That's not to say we don't go oh, they have a really impressive degree, let's go check them out. But at the end of the day, where you went to school and whatever credentials you have are meaningless compared to two things. One of them is your output. Like, what can you do? What are you capable of doing? And all of the questions that come out of that. How quick does it take? And what specific skill set and all that. But the second part of that, and I think Derrick touched on it, which is your thought process. I would also emphasize articulating that thought process, being able to have a conversation about your work. And that of course spins off into many topics. Being able to give and receive criticism, being able to think and talk critically, just being a good communicator. I think when Derrick and I are interviewing potential candidates, those are the two questions we're asking ourselves: is how good is this candidate's work, but equally important, how easy are they to talk to about the work? And because that of course will turn into how easy are they to work with on a day-to-day basis.
Right.
So all that is to say, don't, just because you have a really good portfolio, you also have to be able to represent yourself and your work good in a good way.
Work good.
Be good. Be good. Talk good. Yeah. Talk good. People talk.
No, but all that is to say also that if I may, is to say that I'm not what I here. Okay, I'll reverse it. What I'm not saying is that school is not important. Don't worry about school. Definitely go out, educate yourself about the industry, continue learning. This is also a continual learning process. I don't know about Eric or about other folks, but everything that I learned in school is completely obsolete now. I was 16 years ago.
100% that.
I went to school. I graduated in 2006, and everything that we learned is completely obsolete. You have to keep up. You have to keep up with technology, keep up with trends, keep up with.
School is for learning how to learn. So when you're in school, you're learning obviously what's relevant and current. But the thing you should take away isn't necessarily, what they're teaching you in that moment, but how you're taking it in and how you can continue to take it in.
With art school in particular, I think it's a safer articulation is maybe to say, if you are currently, if anyone watching this is currently a student in an art program, don't. This is well-earned advice, because I wish I could travel back 30 years and give myself this advice. Focus on the fundamentals that are never going to go out of style. Focus on fundamentals of color theory, fundamentals of lighting, life drawing, understanding shape and form, understanding how to talk with pictures. Don't focus on software choices, right? Anything you learn in school is going to be obsolete in 5 years. I guarantee it.
Well, I've also heard, entering art school, there's raw talent, and then there's the ability to learn good techniques, by practice. And you need both. An art school is going to accept you if you give them enough money. Anybody will take you, no matter how much talent. But just having raw talent is enough. Just being able to learn the skills is enough. You need to kind of marry the two, and that's what I heard.
Yeah.
My daughter just finished her concept art diploma, so we went through a lot of this in the past 4 years. Go ahead, Autumn.
I was going to say that another big factor is that game development is a team sport, And so you have to be able to collaborate with people. You have to be able to communicate with people. And like Eric said, to kind of communicate your ideas effectively. And to be critical about those ideas and about, you know, how we can continue to improve them, because it's always going to be multiple people kind of putting their ideas together.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah, very good. Someone just asked, how has the pandemic shift to have more folks work from home opened the possibility for studios in general and Cyan to hire, I guess, farther afield on a broader geographic consideration?
I don't know, Autumn. Can you answer that question?
Where do you live now, Autumn?
So I am in Seattle, which is about a 4-hour drive from Spokane.
Right. So are you currently the furthest?
So yeah, it has opened.
Sorry.
No, we actually have an engineer who's in, is he in North Carolina?
Yep.
And then we have another artist who's in LA.
Awesome.
And a Florida man.
Yeah, we have
You
a
have
Florida
a Florida
man.
man?
Oh, yeah.
We have
Yeah.
a Florida man.
Wow.
Yeah, I think he might be the farthest.
The
Yeah.
opposite corner. Yeah.
I can speak a little bit to that. It has forever changed the way we will be doing our staffing. I think it forced us into that position, which was a great side effect of the pandemic. I hate to say that, but like we were definitely a studio where, you know, for the longest time we could find good people, but finding good people that you could also convince to move to Spokane, Washington was not an easy.
Spokanistan.
Yeah, the spoke. It's difficult. You either love it here or you don't love it here, and I happen to love it here. I know a lot of us tend to love it here, but that was a challenge. And what the pandemic has done is prove to us that we don't have to have everybody in one spot. In fact, Hannah had also worked remotely for many years. I'd worked remotely on other projects, like from my basement. And so I knew that it could totally be done. And we had started the shift a little bit. Hannah and I were like, we need to start changing the way we do our structuring for that very issue. And so we had started that, and then pandemic hit right about the time that I think Derrick was coming back and Blake was coming back. So when they came on board, like we had already gone into lockdown, and so it was straight work from home. For Jeremiah, he was in the office, but now he had to move all his stuff home. I had to move all my stuff home. Since pandemic started, we've hired 4 or 5 staffers, 4 of which like are going to be remote forever. Some of which I still have never been in the same room with, like just because it changed everything. So everything became remote. And we've talked a lot about, well, what happens now as we're starting to come out of lockdown. Like Jeremiah is back at the office, right? He's back every day. I still haven't made the transition, mostly just because I got my setup here and I don't want to jeopardize like getting milestones hit and all that. So
sure.
But I think we've had
that's how I feel too. Yeah.
We'll stick to that.
We've had the conversation though about I don't think we can go back to the way it was. I don't think we can go back to like just having an office and then having people who are in the office, because we have too many talented people right now that are never going to be in that situation. We don't want to rock the boat there, but also all we have to do is just keep those people in mind and make sure that everybody still feels connected to the company. And so some of us will be in the office, but it means that instead of just having conversations at the cubicles or whatever, we have to make sure those conversations get pulled back into Slack so that the people like Autumn or like Michael or other people in the company who are scattered abroad don't suddenly feel disconnected from that information flow, if that makes sense.
Yep, absolutely. All right, so I have a question from a noob, which is me actually. What is the difference between, so Autumn, you do animation and character animation and rigging, and I know there are technical artists I think Blake, you're a technical artist. Like, tell me the different kinds of art that we all know what concept art is and environmental art, and there's character art, but there are all kinds of artists, and I know quite a few of you probably can do multiple art types and functions. So what kind of artists do we have that are currently working on either finishing up Mist or working on Firmament right now?
Blake, do you wanna field this one, or Jeremiah?
I was
Sure.
going to say I'm more of a generalist than anything. Like I do a lot of hard surface. I do some character stuff and animating. I'm like one thing in particular, the snake in the box in Mechanical and Mist. I
Right.
modeled that and everything, and I ended up doing the animation for that myself. It probably would have been a lot more efficient if Autumn would have been there already to do that, but
Gotcha.
I was able to do that good enough to get that in.
It looks good. I just saw it in the sneak peek video and it looks excellent. And so Blake, you do technical art, is that the right term?
So I'm kind of a weird hybrid. I call it technical environment artist. It kind of started with my previous studio as well. Just I'm an environment artist first, working in the environments, world building, set dressing, lighting, all that fun stuff. But if I approach a situation where I'm like, this is just tedious or terrible or slow, or there's a better way to do this, I can think about how to best approach it. Like I can make a tool or a script or create a pipeline or whatever, and then I can use programmer skills to basically aid my workflow and the workflows of other artists.
So to automate it.
Yeah, to automate it or just make things easier, or set up pipelines and workflows that the rest of the team can also adhere to, that make sure we don't hit any, as Eric said, landmines.
Right.
Down the road. So
someone asked, what kind of tools are you finding most valuable these days, or find that you use a lot? And I guess anybody can field that one as well.
Blake, do you want to give like a really like a dumbed down version of something like, say, the designer workflow to just automate certain tasks?
Sure. So when we're working with the architectural toolkit, which is really good for building like I-beams that can be stretched along in metal plates and just big architectural elements or rocks and all sorts of things like that, we go through the basic process of baking out the texture maps, and then we throw it into Substance Designer, which is like a procedural texturing tool. We bake everything out and we run it through a few, I guess, nodes is what you would call them. And they do a bunch of things, like they'll take texture maps and it'll create like a gradient map and a curvature map and whatever else. And it'll just auto pack all these different texture masks into different textures and auto name it and just make it easy to throw into the engine. It's really hard to explain. It's all kind of a technical approach. Or just taking like stuff from Megascans, which is like these actual photographed surface captured like textures and meshes like rocks and everything that we can also run through this program and adjust like level correction, gamma correction, and adjust the roughness values and all this stuff. And then we could just pack it in, name it, and then just send it over to the engine. So it's good for our purposes.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it's all about like trying to cut out as much busy work as possible, and then also have an easy workflow. Like you can open up any texture in Photoshop and go in and like manually fix stuff. And sometimes you got to do that. I do that all the time. But it's nice if you have a pipeline in place where if you have to go back and make a change, you can run it all the way back through the pipeline, and it'll take 5 minutes, and it won't cost you much, and you'll have the highest quality output. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all completely non-destructive and flexible, and just it helps us keep the consistency that we need. So
to your question about roles, though, it's like that's one thing that Cyan has. It's always been true at Cyan, but it's especially true now. Is we try to only hire generalists because we expect everybody to wear many hats and be able to sort of jump between tasks. And some of that is purely survival. It's because we don't want people so specialized that we don't have a use for them. It's really important to have a team that that we can support long term and make
And
sure
team
that
size as well, right?
Yeah,
Because you want to have enough people to do what you need without having to hire again and again.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. And I would say like Autumn is probably one of the more specialized people on the team. And even she has already been pulled out. I mean, she was warned ahead of time, but it's like pulled out of her comfort zone to help out on stuff that wasn't really in her wheelhouse. And she's been, rocking it. It's like everybody on the team fits that description.
Right.
This is what they do on paper, but in reality, they do like 3 times as much. And, shift between and are constantly expanding skill set. I see Derrick laughing.
Yeah. We do. I love that comment about paper. This is what it looks like on paper. Here's the reality of what happens in the studio. And you mentioned, Eric, the idea of continual learning. I'm a huge proponent of that. I every time I get a chance to have our team learn something new or display something new, keep up on new techniques and stuff. I absolutely love that. And so we're always trying to facilitate ways to keep up on those things.
Yeah, and that'll keep you obviously relevant in the game space too, right? You don't want to. It's funny because we hear about when original Myst was being created and every single innovation that happened at that time. Well, not every single, but so many of like QuickTime, the advent of QuickTime, and all of a sudden that changed the game, or CD-ROM delivery, obviously, all kinds of things that changed how that game ended up being because of what was happening. So you have to keep doing that.
I think that also ties in with the education question that came up earlier, and I'm glad Derrick mentioned it. I was actually going to throw it back to him earlier because, we live in a time right now where it is easier to become really, really potent at game art specifically, simply because the resources are so easy to find and so democratized, and not just like crappy tutorials, but like instruction from the best in the biz, the top of the game people who are sharing their expertise with the world. Derrick is always pulling in new stuff and get in front of people. But like to anybody out there who's like thinking about getting into this, don't think that like you have to pick the right college or whatever, right?
Sure. Yeah. It's about the person. Doing hiring at other teams, what we always talked about is just what you said. Education can be different for everybody. Are they going to fit in culturally? Are they the people that are going to be you don't want to get somebody who's so educated that they're not willing to learn something new or grow with the team or innovate. So it's really all about the mindset over what they've learned. It's how they learn and how they want to continue learning.
Yeah, exactly.
So I want to show, I don't know if the community will like this, but I want to show a few shots that you sent me from Firmament. I think a couple people might like this. And so I'm just going to kind of linger on each one a little bit. And if you want to talk about, I think a lot of it's concept sketches. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe so.
Ta-da! Can everybody see this?
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah. As you're showing through some of that art, I can talk a little bit about.
I would love that.
Dive in there, Derrick.
Yeah, some of the direction. One of the things that we're doing for Firmament, it's so exciting, guys. It's so exciting. We're bringing in some of my favorite art movements from the last century, Art Nouveau and Art Deco. What we wanted to do was, as a design challenge to ourselves, was to try and mix those two very different art movements into one in an interesting way, built on a base of industrial steampunk fantasy, right? Which is basically what Firmament is. It's a steampunk fantasy game, much in the spirit of Riven and Myst and things that we do. But you'll see a lot of this imagery has that industrial feel. There's elements of Art Nouveau, Art Deco. Internally, for the concept artists, we call it Nouveau Deco. This is some excellent work from Joseph Chan. Shout out to him, one of our talented concept artists.
This isn't the adjunct, is it?
It is.
It
It
is.
is. The adjunct is evolving.
I was gonna say
yeah.
this looks a little different, especially this one in the top left. I'm like, well, hello. That's
Hello.
yeah.
Yeah. That's
Little buddy,
some
not so
cool
little
things.
anymore. What's going
No,
on?
he's still little. He's just more buddy.
Okay. Still
More buddy,
little,
less little.
more buddy. You
That's
heard
right.
it here first.
And
Oh, this is beautiful. Look at.
yeah, here's some great example of that mixture of some of that work.
I love how the inspiration's on the side there. You know, the aesthetic, you know, what he's building
Yeah.
from.
Yep, exactly. Reference is key for a lot of our stuff. You can see references here of
Reference,
Art
that's the
Deco.
word.
Yep. And then in the Art Nouveau. And what we've tried to do was to try and mix some of those elements. You'll notice some of the curves and some of the shapes and things on these have elements of both of those in there. We've got soft curves from Art Nouveau. We've got like hard angles and stepped kind of ziggurat shapes for the Art Deco. Really interesting ways that we're trying to implement it, as well as
you can draw on here.
Oh, you
Cool.
bet. Buddy. You bet. Yeah.
Uh-oh. We've lost Derrick.
Yeah.
That's all. So that looks like the elevator door. It's reminiscent of the Riven elevator door, the bottom right reference there. You know, like, are there elements of, sorry, I know firmament is its own thing and I can't wait to see it, and shut up, I want it now. But you know, are you going to pull in, I guess, some classic iconic Cyan elements, like anything from Riven, anything from Mist or Uru?
Is the question, does it take place in the Mist universe?
No, I would never be so bold. I would never be so bold. I guess, well, I mean, if you want to answer that question, but more, I think more to the point is, how much are you trying to do a departure, or how much are you embracing that Cyan history and look and feel and bringing it forward? And
I mean, it's its own thing, and it's not, you know, but I will say it's the studio has a legacy of a certain flavor of world building. I think the details are obviously different, but the thing that we don't want to leave on the side of the road is sort of our dedication to quality and thought-provoking, inspiring spaces, right? And Derrick and the design team have been just slaying in terms of the shape and form that they're bringing into stuff. Like, I mean, this sheet here that we're looking at, even Derrick can speak a little more to it, but like, we're talking about like utility objects in the world. Like, this is this would be the equivalent of like an HVAC unit on the side of a Walmart, and the amount of care and thought and
not just for form, but for function as well, and how it fits in the world. It's not just arbitrarily put there.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, and a lot of some of the things that we've put into the space. If you go back to the last image, you can kind of see this is some of Rick Campana's work, one of our other concept artists. Environment work and environment composition is really important for us. Material separation, the different types of materials that are going to be applied to the world to bring in a full kind of comprehensive scene and to get the right theme and like mood that we're looking for. So it's images like these that you might have seen during the firmament update. This is where they start. They start in like thumbnails to try and nail down the shots that we think will best exemplify the areas.
Yeah, like you can see the boards that he's put, you know, kind of that it looks like wood or a sheet of metal there.
Yeah, and it's definitely has that industrial flair, that kind of early 19th century industrial flair, and then laid upon it is that Nouveau Deco look that we wanted to try and influence into it. Yeah, and then back to the sheet. We just
the one after that. I have
back
to get out
sheet.
of annotation mode, and I don't know how. Oh no! What have I done?
Press the red X in the bar.
Oh, there it is. Thank you so much.
You are
what would I do
welcome.
without you?
You bet.
Derrick's my new favorite person.
No problem. Yeah, annotation's fantastic, especially for visual design communication.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
So look at these. These are building attachments, and each one of these looks like it was crafted by an artisan or designed by it's got a flavor to it that feels less than or I would say more than more than just a sheer box or a panel. Each one of these has been carefully crafted in a way, I'd say. Here's
the lighting and just like electrical in general.
I told I gave the design challenge to the concept artists that we're looking for all the utilities, electrical, water, sewer, garbage, electrical, HVAC, things that are mundane, things that are commonplace, and then overlay some interesting visual design over the top of all those.
We're tired of people asking where the bathrooms on Mist Island are, so
exactly,
we're not
exactly.
going to leave that question
open.
It's
all one big dunny, right?
That's right.
So yeah.
Oh, these are great.
I forgot we sent you so many.
Yeah, I forgot. I didn't know what we're gonna say.
I'm going slowly, like it's not so many, and fans are going, it's not so many. This is fantastic.
Of course. So we'll stop for a minute. I guess we can talk. Both Autumn and I can talk a little bit about character work. Like Autumn mentioned earlier, characters are something that we would like to see more of. We live in a day and age where CG characters, real-time characters can look amazing. They look amazing. And never before have we had the tools as a small independent studio, and the tools and the help to create high-quality characters. So it's something that we'd like to shoot for. Here's an amazing sheet again by Joseph Chan with some characters that perhaps, I mean, they're pretty self-explanatory. They look like they might, I don't know, work in a shaft, or they're uniformed characters here.
This guy works in a mitten factory.
This guy works in a mitten factory. So I mean, like
a badminton factory. He's missing his fingers.
Listen, Kha'tie, you got to start somewhere. We can't all get hired at the top.
He has to start in the fingerless level, and then he moves up to fingers.
So we have something really, really special there. Autumn, would you like to add anything to that?
Sure. So one of the big things that we're trying to leverage is technology from third parties that will help, as Derrick said, with the characters. Should I say what we're hoping to use?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Yeah. So we want to leverage Epic's MetaHuman, which is something that they just released a beta for. And that allows us to get really realistic, really, it's all sourced from 3D scanning. And so we can get real, like, I almost want to say earthy, like realistic people that are grounded in reality and not just super stylized or anything, but still having a stylized sort of bent to them.
I'll even push Autumn's comment a step further and say that not only are we hoping to leverage it, but we've already done some early experimentation, and the results. I see the face Derrick's making, and that is the appropriate face for the results that these two have been cranking out. We're not ready to share it yet, but holy crap, you guys! Holy crap!
We're really, really excited about this. Not only I mean, Epic does, shout out to Epic for making these tools available for us, but other common character pipeline tools, things like Marvelous Designer, things like ZBrush, and the tools that we use to create these just a really, really believable characters are being utilized in our pipeline. We've already used some of those things to amazing results.
And I'll just a giant shout out to Autumn, who is sort of, I mean, very much on the bleeding edge of these tools, to the point where a lot of the stuff, it's in early access. It's not meant for prime time use yet. And she's figuring out workflows for us that are not only like working, but working really well to give us capabilities that are not out of the box supported. Is that safe to say, Autumn?
Yeah, just we're kind of going in and breaking their rig a little bit and using it for our own purposes. But it's a wonderful foundation to build off of, and it really kind of catapulted us like further in the project where we would be versus having to like model all the characters from scratch and having to build the rigs from scratch. And they just have a lot of amazing groundwork that's already built that we're kind of building on top of. And something else that we really want to utilize is performance capture. So we would do motion capture and performance capture to really, we want to bring that legacy of the live action characters and try to, bring that into 3D and bring that into our digital characters. So ways that we can kind of get a really high fidelity of character performance is something that we're looking at for our next projects.
To steal from something that Blake said earlier, leveraging things like MetaHuman and the pipeline that Unreal is providing allows us to stay really scrappy and punch above our weight class in terms of the quality we're able to achieve.
Has there been talk of Uncanny Valley or any concerns as far as that is? I think we kind of passed it a few years back, and now we're beyond it. Personally, I find the things I'm looking at now are much less viscerally icky than the stuff I'm seeing now. It's a lot better. I think we kind of passed.
Yeah, I think it's all about restraint, right? Like even with MetaHuman right out of the box tools, it takes just a couple clicks to get something horrific on your screen that definitely gets you in heavy uncanny valley territory.
Yeah, and then nobody eats lunch. Yeah.
Right.
There's Chris Pine. I see you've got Chris in the game. That's awesome.
One of the things you'll notice as these sheets go by with the characters, they're definitely heavily influenced by the like turn of the century. Everything from Victorian, Edwardian, Neo-Victorian to like 1910, 1920s era. So it fits right into that kind of wheelhouse of that kind of steampunk.
Number 5 here looks it's reminiscent of Cirrus in Revelation too. So
a little.
That's always important. I think there's only one more. Aha.
Ooh, wonder what that is.
It's a pretty beefy one.
Pretty tasty.
Everybody's like reading as quickly as they can. There's a whole meme going on right now in chat about Bad Mitten Factory and how it was. There's a whole racket thing and the bad.
When you said that, I was curious whether you meant like a shuttlecock or like a badminton.
When I said it, I thought, oh no, is that my Canadian accent that makes it sound like the racket
that's
sport?
Pretty good. I can't wait to see this back to see the meme.
there's going to be a badminton cosplayer at the next Mysterium, I think.
Oh, that's pretty good.
So we're at the 1 hour mark, which I find hard to believe because I have about 10 more questions for each of you, but this has been wonderful. I've had a great time getting to know those of you that I didn't know and just reminiscing with those of you I did and talking about, everything from the beginnings to current day efforts. Congrats to all of you on all the work you've done in the past 18 months. We all know it sucked a lot, but it was also, it was a chance to get really innovative and to do just a lot of heads down work, right? Didn't you find it a productive time?
A little too productive some weeks, yeah.
Yeah. Forget, you kind of get to leave it behind when you drive home from the office, and when you don't have that, you have to really learn how to close.
Yeah, I miss being in the office with these people. I miss being in that space. Those of you watching this who have been to Mysteriums that were hosted at Cyan's HQ, you know what I'm talking about. Miss it. But yeah,
it's magical.
Mm-hmm.
We have one final question, and that's just, I guess this is as good a panel as any to ask. How is Rawa doing? If Rich is doing okay and hanging in. I'm
probably not the best qualified person to answer that question. I saw him pre-pandemic at this point, but we check in with him over email and stuff.
It's interestingly enough, I actually, and this is news to like everyone here, I actually got an email from Rawa yesterday It was the
good.
first time
Awesome.
for them from the whole pandemic. And he's like, "Oh, I haven't seen you in such a long time." He's just checking in. He seemed to be in good spirits. He was checking in, asking about some stuff. But yeah, I mean, he's hanging in there. He's hanging in there.
Good.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it's so interesting that you asked that question now, because
I'm
he
glad
just
you've been
emailed
in
me
touch.
yesterday.
You
Oh.
remain my new favorite
I
person.
meant to mention this earlier, Derrick. I loved your getting in the industry answer. I actually had lunch with Steve Hogendijk earlier this week and
No kidding.
Oh, there you go.
relayed
No
to him
kidding.
your story of how you got in, and he
There you
hadn't
go.
heard all of it, and it just warmed
Oh,
his
man.
heart to hear what you're doing
That's
now.
so
and
cool. That's
I
so cool.
talked up what you're
15,
doing.
15, 20
Yep.
years later, something like that, right?
It's like when Jeremiah mentioned Doug, and I'm like, I was just talking to
Yeah,
Doug on,
right.
on
Small
Thursday. That's
Small
so
world.
strange.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what Mysterium's for, bring everybody together. So,
Thank you so much for hosting this panel, by the way.
I love it.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I
you
love
guys
it.
are you guys are in for a treat. I'll say this, and this is not just the people, the art team we have on the panel now, but the art team as a whole and the company as a whole. I am so proud of the company we have rebuilt and the company that we have now. We have a really insane group of developers with a really exciting next few years ahead of us, and we got some gas in the tank. And you guys are in for I think an era of happiness as Cyan fans. So
Yay. Yeah. Awesome. Excellent. Thank you so much. Thanks to everybody who watched. Thank you for your excellent questions. And thanks for sharing the art with us too for Firmament, because I know there hasn't
You're
been a
most welcome.
ton, but it's for a good reason, because the pipelines are being formed and all the tools are being set up. So thanks very much for all your work on that.
I promise there will be much more in the near future. You'll be able to see behind the curtain a lot more. So,
and yeah, thank you to
Yay.
every one of the fans out there.
All right. Bye, everybody. Have a great evening, and tune in to the next panel starting in about a half hour.
Bye.
thanks so much, you guys. Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.